about who's there. You worry about the message. So that's what we'll do. We'll worry about the message, not worry about who all ain't here. Lord, deal with that. But thank the Lord for all He's done. Thank for how good He's been. This was a good week to take a little time and think about our country and what He has given us. We want to think about how bad everything is, and oh yeah, the country's, man, it's in terrible shape. Blah 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 blah. As bad a shape as it might appear to be in, it's still a better country than the vast majority of the earth. And that's easy to forget. We forget that with our salvation. Oh, I'm having this and I'm having this problem. How much better is it than when it was when you were in sin? And you were really a mess. Oh, well, yeah. We forget real easy. We're humans. We forget real easy. Real easy. So let's get started this morning. Father, come forth this morning. Thank you for many blessings. Thank you for helping us, protecting us, watching over us. Just thank you for how good you've been, Lord. And how you've blessed us as a nation, blessed us as a people, Lord, and here as a congregation. We just thank you for everything, Lord. Ask you to be with the many ones who are out, vacations and traveling and whatever keeps them out, Lord. Just ask you to put your hand of protection on them, Lord, and keep them safe. And those who need it, Lord, help them to feel their need of thee, Lord, and that they're missing out, Lord, by not being in your presence today. And just thank you for all you can do, Lord. Be at the many sick and afflicted ones, Lord. Just touch them. Ask you to be with them, Lord, and be with the souls today, Lord, that people can get help. Get the lessons, the messages, songs, praise. Just thank you for all you do. In Jesus' name, amen. So, last lesson we talked a little bit about, we finished talking about Pentecost and how after all that and getting all set up and the Holy Spirit coming, man, you're expecting this is going to be some, man, big, long, fancy message. He's going to go into all these details and he's going to just preach for 2 days. Now, he preached more than what's in the Scripture, but what we got in the Scripture is really, really plain and straightforward and simple. About 21 verses. That's what he preached on Pentecost. When the Holy Spirit first came, it wasn't some great, big, long preaching message. It was short, straight to the point. Here's the Savior. You killed him. This is what you need to do. This is what he came for. Boom. It's like, oh, wow. And it's like, refocus your message. Get back to why God sent his son. Get back to what his son was for. We want to get sometimes, and we do need to understand doctrine. We need to understand standards. We need to understand the teachings and the things that we do. There's nothing saying that, but we've got to make sure our main focus is still getting the main message out. And we don't get away from that because you can get so deep in the other, we forget all about teaching about Christ. We forget all about what he came for. Oh, yeah, well, you already know that. Well, you already know that. That's the message that saves souls. Never heard anybody get their soul saved on preaching on whether you should wear jewelry or makeup or what kind of clothes you should wear. Come on. These are things, they can help you, but you don't see souls getting saved. And our goal isn't to teach people so that they know everything. It's to help souls get saved. The other is to strengthen that so that they stay saved. We get these things all flipped around backwards, and then we can't win the world. We're too busy convincing ourselves we're right. But we just went through 4th of July. And this week, I started off the week, I tried to go study Tuesday night, and there was just nothing there. Some Brother Matt knows what I'm talking about. There's some days you just get up and go, because that's not it. That's not the night. You're not getting it right now. I've got something else in mind for you. And I knew Wednesday night came in, had our discussion in here Wednesday night. I knew why I didn't get it Tuesday night, because Lord had some things he wanted to bring to mind. And I started thinking about the 4th of July. And remember, Sherry and I got the privilege of taking a trip over and spending a week over in Boston one year. And it really brought to mind the fact that our independence didn't just, we came over on a ship, we got here, we made a city, let's be independent people. It didn't work that way. There was people here for at least 200 years before we declared independence as full-blown cities, civilized people. We're not talking farmers out in their log cabins. Those people were the people who moved on out further west to Ohio and Pennsylvania, and then later further on. They were fully civilized people long before there was a Declaration of Independence. Because they were telling us about stuff that happened in the late 1400s. I was like, wow. Wow, you're talking 300 years before we declared ourselves a country. There was already people here living and surviving, and we lose track of how things happened. And we think, well, if you were here that long, what took you so long to become a country? They weren't sure they wanted to become a country. We have a hard time imagining that, but they weren't so sure at first they wanted to. They were so used to relying on what they relied on. Somebody else came in and took care of them. And for a long time, we only ever think of England. We forget Spain and France were just as involved as anybody else for a very, very long time. And they all staked out their parts of this territory and called it their country or their colony, and they were going to rule here, and they had their laws and stuff ever, and everybody was taking care of themselves. And eventually, the people who lived here got tired of people who lived somewhere else telling them how everything was going to be. And then making you pay taxes on things that you did here that was going to go back to that country to support it. And things that you have nothing to do with. You didn't care about what war, for instance, France and Spain and England was in. And they were always in wars. And you didn't care. You didn't care that England was trying to colonize the entire earth and made a good shot at it. Made a real good shot at it. And the taxes finally got to the point that they got tired of it. And they said, you know what? We don't want to do this no more. We don't want to do this no more. So they declared to the world, we're our own people. We're our own nation. We rule ourselves. We are us. We are our people. And you know what? I was looking at that. That is probably the biggest event of all the events that's happened in our country. That's probably the biggest one event that ever happened. When we think 9/11, that was just a couple days. That was just a couple thousand people. One shot, done. We didn't have a choice in that. We didn't make a decision. A lot of the other things that happened, the wars that we got into, some of them we got drug into. Some of them we kind of wanted in because there's money to be made. Come on, we got to be honest about how some of this stuff works, whether we like it or not. That's how it works. But this was one people had to actually personally take a stand. They had to stop and think about it. If I do this, it's going to change forever. Once we do this, there's no coming back from it. This is a change. We declare independence. We declare ourselves a country. We're going to have to be able to step up and be a country. And you know what? When we did that, people here were afraid but resolved. They wanted to do it. But all the people across the seas, they were really annoyed. Really, really annoyed. These people are always bothersome. They're always pain. We always got to placate them. We always got to take care of these people. Now they're just uprising against us. as if they were ever their country to start with. See, we look at it from our perspective, but if you look at it from the perspective of the countries that had come over here to originally, where people came from, they were going to lose the tobacco and all the other crops that they got from the U.S. that got shipped over. Come on, they were getting these things really cheap because they got done here. They grew plentifully, easily here. They got shipped back overseas. They took them, they sold them on, and they made a lot of money on it. They were going to lose all that. Now they would have to actually buy it. Wasn't near as much profit to be made if you had to buy it first. And people here were going to want what it was worth, so you're not going to make much on it when you sell it on. They had been so long in their style of government in Europe and Northern Africa and all those countries around there, their feudal systems with their kings and all the people under the king that reported to the king and all the people under them, and then there was the normal people. They call them the peons. Just the normal people. They didn't count for much. They considered our whole country to be the normal people. There was no aristocracy over here. There was no nobles over here. These people didn't really mean much. What do they think they are? Who do they think they are going to be a country? Yeah. And I was reading about it. You know, there were several countries over there when they got told about the declaration that the United States had made, they wouldn't pass it on. Some of them didn't pass it on to any of their people for years, that we had declared ourselves a country. They wouldn't accept it. And they thought we were just an upstart. But what they didn't know, what they didn't realize, they were dealing with a whole new breed of people. This was something the world hadn't seen. Everywhere where they had gone and colonized or taken over, those people had lived there forever. Thousands of years. They were used to their lifestyle. All they were changing was who ruled over top of them, but their lifestyle didn't change a lot. This is what happened with Israel. Come on, this is what happened with them. There are a lot of times when they got taken over captive, it was just who they had to pay tax to now, who made the laws. Their lifestyle didn't change a whole lot. They would take a lot of the nobility out of Israel, the people who thought they were something, and they'd take them back to their country with them to get them out and keep control of them. They wouldn't start an uprising. But the regular people, a lot of them, they just left. Stay there and farm, stay there and work, just pay us taxes. This was the first time they'd come across a country that hadn't been a country before. There'd never been anybody here who was ruling. It did have, I mean, we're not putting down or ignoring the Native Americans, but they weren't a country as a group of people. They were a whole bunch of small nations living on one area. Each with their own rulers, each with their own laws. This was the first time they'd come somewhere where the people had never been a people, and now they gathered together and became a people. It changed. This was new. They weren't expecting a people who were resolved as a whole group, or I should say as a large group, not the whole group. They weren't expecting a people who had decided this was how it was going to be, and they weren't going to change. They weren't going to back down. Well, you don't have the power we have. You don't have the military we have. We don't care. We're still going to be our own people. We'll find a way. And I read a lot of stuff. That was a new attitude. A lot of the world still says this. You'll read about Travis said Americans are kind of a find a way to do it people. They'll figure it out. If it isn't there and they really want to do something, they'll find a way to make it happen. A lot of the world doesn't do that. That's not their mentality. That's not the way they're built. That's just not how they are. So these guys, they're different. They've been through enough hardship and had to find a way enough. They will find a way. That's how they think. So the world is getting something they're not used to. They're not used to a people who, when they just see a superior military force, just quits. These guys seen it and said, so we'll figure something else out. We still ain't giving up. We got a big country we can run across. You can't chase us that far with all that stuff. Come on. You're going to get tired sooner or later. This was an attitude they hadn't seen. And when they were told we're going to be independent, the people, once they made that decision, they said their mind became resolved. Their backbone became stiff. And those who were behind it became a different people. It changed them. It changed them. We're a country. It instilled a pride. It instilled a deep-seated faith that they could be what they wanted to be. But we forget, there's a lot of people here who didn't want to be part of that. Come on, you had people here who were very closely tied back to those other countries. Either through family relationships, or they had been appointed to a position here as mayor of this town, governor of this territory, whatever, by the king back over there. And everything they had, everything they were, everything they owned was because of the king back over there. You declare freedom from him, and now I ain't got nothing. I ain't nobody. We're losing it all. We're just normal everybody else. And there was a lot of those people. See, we want to forget everybody didn't just want to do this. The majority did, but not everybody did. We're going somewhere with this. Just hang on. But if you want to change, just because they declared their independence, just because they declared their freedom, it didn't automatically happen. Now you had to go take it. Come on. It didn't just happen. They had to do something about it, or they would stay in the same bondage they were. They couldn't say, well, we're free people, but then keep right on paying taxes, keep right on following all the reporting to the king, keep right on doing all that. We have to break all that. We have to stop it. We have to quit doing these things. We have to make a change, show the world we're not part of that kingdom anymore. This is going to require some changes. This is going to require things that could be seen by everybody. Everybody's going to know whether you're part of that king or not. Come on. See, we want to remember a very nice storybook version of what our country's independence was about and what our freedom was about. But it was a lot harder than that. Those guys paid a price. They seriously paid a price. And I'm telling you, I've read about a lot of the meetings before they ever got to declare, and before the Second Continental Congress got together and even tried to write up a Declaration of Independence. You read about some of the meetings about whether we should be a country. There was screaming and shouting and fussing and fighting, and man, they were going at it. Because there were people adamantly for it and adamantly against it. You're going to destroy my whole life. You're going to destroy everything I got. You're going to take away everything I am. And what if we do that? You know they're going to come a fight, and I live along the coast. They're going to destroy all my property. I'm going to lose everything. I might get killed. Man, all these things come in. These are the same things that go through your mind on a different level whenever you're considering salvation and you ain't. If you're in sin, come on, the devil's giving you every what for fight. Why you can't do it. Why you shouldn't do it. What this is going to do to you. And your soul's sitting there trying to fight the other side. I need this. I want this. I'm tired of this. They went through this battle. They had these fights. And when they finally got to it and said, we're going to be free, enough of us have decided, the majority has decided, we're going to do this. Second Continental Congress group, they got together and they got some people and they wrote up a declaration. And shortly a Bill of Rights. And they stated this is what's going to happen. And once they made that move, they all knew. You can read about it in some of their meetings. This is going to cost a lot. There's people in this very room who are going to die for what we just did. They knew that. And I forget, I read once how many was in the Second Continental Congress. It wasn't that many, comparatively. But they knew a bunch of us are going to die for this. Is it still worth it? Yeah, I want it for my kids and my grandkids. I want it for future generations. I want it to be passed down. Because if we don't do it, who will? When's going to be a better time than now? You think the next generation is going to have it any easier than we have it? Come on. This is how they were. This is the things they had to consider. You stop and think about what you're going to consider when you know very high probability you're going to die for this. You're going to pay that price. But what did they say they wanted? Above all, I want freedom. I want independence. I don't want to have to be under somebody else's rule. Well, let's look at freedom and independence. Let's take a little look at it. Freedom, the power or the right to act, speak, or think as you want without hindrance or without restraint. The absence of necessity or being coerced or constrained to do something. Being exempt or released from doing something that you just hate, something they consider onerous or undesirable. The state of being free or at liberty rather than being confined. Freedom. Nothing is holding you back. Nothing is binding you. You make your decisions. Nothing else is making you do what you decide. Freedom. Independence. This comes from, I thought this was interesting, independence comes from the French. Their word is dépendre, and it means to hang from. They added the Latin in at the beginning, and that meant not. Not to hang from. In our language, the way they use it, it translates as if to hang from a tree, not to hang from. If you follow how they used it, think of it like the branches on a tree. If you're a branch hanging from a tree, you belong to that tree. You can't live without that tree. You can't exist without that tree. But if you're your own tree, if you're not hanging from that one, you're your own. You have no reliance on that tree no more. That's where independence came from. The quality or the state of being free from the control of someone else, another person, country, or entity. Not being dependent, which is the state of relying on or being controlled by someone or something else. So we wanted, as a country, to be able to make our own choices and not be dependent on somebody else and have someone else telling us what to do. We all claim we value freedom and independence. But we only want to be free from somebody else telling us what to do or forcing us to do it. We want to be independent to self-govern. But we always want to forget. And much of our country forgets. If you're going to be independent and you're going to be free, that means you have to govern. You have to put those laws in place that you don't want someone else to put on you. Now you've got to do it to yourself. Or you'll just be an anarchic, unruly country. The law and the governance still has to happen. See, this is what we want to forget. It's not that we're without law, without governance. It still has to happen. Now we choose to do it ourselves. We choose these laws are fair. These are right. They're worth upholding. We're going to do it. Come on. But we want to lose track of that. We want to get, no, we're free. We're free. That is not what freedom means. You got to choose the laws. You got to decide what they were. You know, our country, and I've followed this all my life, watching it since I learned about this in school, 6th, 7th grade, somewhere in there, we had a teacher teach us this. Our country's not a democracy. They intentionally did not make it majority rules. Very intentionally did not, because the majority is often wrong. And there's no checks and balances on a majority rules. It just happens. That's called mob rule. And that gets real dumb real fast. Anywhere in history you read about mob rule, it gets bad real fast. They intentionally made it a republic. They intentionally made it so that there was a democratic part of it, but it still had checks and balances to keep things from getting out of control. Our forefathers saw what happened with pure democracy and with pure tyrants or dictators. They knew both sides of it. It had to be something in between, where there could be some control, something to keep the mob from going insane, but where the mob still had a choice. See, we think we can get saved. Now we can just do whatever we want. Come on. Well, this is what I want to do. It feels right. It's what I think I want. It's what I believe. It's how I feel. It don't work like that. What you did was you got out from under being ruled and told this is what you will do, and you have no control over it, because sin doesn't give you control. It lets you think you're in control, but you still jump and snap every time it tells you to move. Come on. This is how sin works. And it let you go from that to choosing, I want to serve God. He's going to be a faithful ruler. He'll be fair. He'll be honest. He'll do it with love. Oh, there'll be rules. There'll be laws. But they'll be the right ones. I choose to follow them. I don't have to follow them. I choose to. He'll let me not follow them. I can go right back to where I was. He'll let me go. But we always want to forget that part. Come on, this is where much of the world is. Oh, I'm saved, I'm free, I can do whatever. It doesn't matter. Oh, it matters. Your freedom only relies on you maintaining your controls. Come on. We can't have freedom now if we don't maintain our laws. You'll lose it. You'll lose all the freedom you think you got, all the independence you think you got if you can't maintain some controls. Because I tell you right now, history tells us if you can't control your country, somebody else will. And it works the same way with our soul. We lose track of this. Come on, we lose track of this. We get to thinking we could just do whatever, and it's going to be okay. No, if you can't maintain control, the devil will take it. I didn't say he'd give it to him. He'll take it. Because he sees a weak person, a person who's not going to stand up and do what's right. They're not going to do what they know they need to do. He'll just take it away from you. We carry this attitude into our spiritual thing, and we go away from, instead of celebrating and being glad of what we can do, we start looking at these controls and the laws of God and His commandments as what we have to do. And once you start doing that, you've already lost a battle. You've chosen to serve God. You can. It's a privilege to be allowed to, because you don't have to serve Satan. And if you don't choose to serve God, you have to serve Satan. Right. And you lose track of that completely. We just walk away from it like, oh, no. Well, yeah, I know this is what I should do to serve God, but I want to do this and this and this and this. Well, look, if you're not going to serve Him, somebody else is going to take you over. Oh, but. No, that's how it works. It was set up that way from the beginning. God came, and his gift to mankind was freedom. His gift was liberty from sin. Isaiah 61, he says, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, for the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. That's what He sent. This is His message. Christ in John 8 told the people. Jesus told the Jews which believed in Him, if you continue in my word, then you're my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth. And when you know the truth will make you free. And they answered Him, they said, we're Abraham's seed. We've never been in bondage to any man. How you say you'll be made free? Hey, I'm not talking about spiritual or about your physical handcuffs and bonds and jails. I'm talking about your soul. I'm talking about you as a person. You're bound. You can't control it. Oh, yeah, I can do this. No, you can't. What happens the first time temptation comes along? Fold, crumble. There you go. He said, verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is a servant of sin. You can't control it. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son, he abideth forever. If the Son, therefore, shall make you free, you'll be free. You don't have to be bound to do these things. But we're so happy and glad to be free, we just want God to be the person who just does everything for us. We forget all about the part where we're supposed to serve God. We're supposed to put him first in our whole life, first above everything else. We just want him to be the person who does everything for us. Come on, God, let's do this. Come on, do this. This is what we need now. Let's go. Wave your wand. That's what we look for. And we forget quickly what a blessing and privilege we thought it was when we first got saved, when we first experienced freedom, we first experienced that ability to overcome sin. Man, this is great. I just told my friends, no, I ain't doing this. Wow. I know that ain't a big deal to you, but I haven't been able to do this for 5 years, 10 years. I've always, anytime they want to do it, I just go. And I know it's ruining my life. It's ruining my marriage. It's ruining this. It's ruining that. But I still do it. And we soon forget that's the freedom that God gave us. And now what happens? We stop looking at the freedom. We start looking at the inconvenience and the bother to serve him. We start looking at, well, this is a lot of sacrifice. I can't do this. I can't do this. But you notice everything you're doing, there's I. Because we start focusing right back on what got us in trouble with sin in the first place. Self. It's all about us. That's where it comes from. Paul warned us about this 2,000 years ago. Galatians 5:1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty where Christ made you free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Don't go getting caught up in this stuff again. He set you free. Maintain it. Keep your mind and your heart focused on what you got free from and why you wanted to be free. In Galatians 5:13, he told them, for brethren, you have been called unto liberty. Only don't use liberty as an occasion to do what you want to do, but by love, serve one another. Quit trying to use this as a way to get self all pumped up and let self go do what you want to do. Use this to serve God. See, our problem is we keep forgetting we're serving somebody. Oh, but no, Christ saved me. Yeah, but you're going to step yourself right back into that bondage you were in. You'll put yourself right back into it because you won't serve God. Another thing Paul told them, yeah, I'm free. There's a lot of things I can do. They don't mean nothing to me. I'm free. I can do these things, but they can cause me problems. 1 Corinthians 6:11. I'm going to read this from the Bible Basic English. I am free to do all things, but not all things are wise. I'm free to do all things, but I will not let myself become under the power of them. Because while I'm free to do them, that doesn't mean they can't cause me problems. I can do them and they're not sin because I know what it is. I understand it. I know that I'm going to do this for this reason. But if I'm not careful, I can get caught up in that. I can get caught up in it. It can become a problem. Peter and James, they warned us too. James told us, Common English Bible, James 1:25, but there are those who study the perfect law, the law of freedom, and they continue to do it. But then they don't listen and they forget. They put it into practice in their lives. They'll be blessed in whatever they do. Come on, we can easily get caught up in things, and as Brother Matt said, not sinful things in and of themselves. We can get so caught up in things. We start forgetting where our priority is. what our freedom was, what our independence is, the liberty God gave us, we start forgetting that we still got to serve Him. That's why we came to this, not so we could go do everything we want to do. That's what gets us in trouble. Peter, in 1 Peter 2, 15 and 16. This is from the Bible in Basic English. Because it is God's pleasure that foolish and narrow-minded men may be put to shame by your behavior. I want you to live in such a way that they'll be ashamed of themselves by your behavior. As those who are free, not using your position as a cover for wrongdoing. Don't let you think you can get away with things because of who you are, what you are, your position. Don't try to get away with things. Use it as a means to win souls, to show people how to live for God. See, if whether we like it or not, if our focus becomes more on how to show the world how to live for God, there's a lot of things we're just not going to do. Sinful or not, they're not going to help the world see the importance of God, the value of it, how important His freedom and independence that He gave us is if we're walking away from that freedom and independence to go do something else. That's not what they're going to see. And you know what? This isn't new. This has been going on since God gave man salvation. You can find preaching and writing on it from the very apostles all the way up. People have always had a hard time with this. Always, always, always. This is not new stuff. We think we can control it. But the fact is, anything we get caught up in that's not of God. I didn't say not sinful, I said not of God. Anything we get caught up in, if we're not really careful, it can take up our time and draw us away from Him.
If we're caught up in it, it already controls us.
Yep.
If we're caught up in it, it already controls us.
When it becomes so important, I've got to. I have to. Where's that balance with God? See, this is what we lose track of. There's many things out there that they're not wrong. Getting caught up in them's wrong. Anytime, I like what Brother Roger Cummings said at the thing over there. Brother Tim said it. I know from Brother Tim's experience because I was young when he was young in the same congregation. And I know as his dad said from the pulpit. And I've told you guys for me, missing church for anything was a very rare occasion. And it wasn't going to be for sports or entertainment. Right. It wasn't even a question to be asked. You might get in trouble for asking the question. It wasn't a question to be asked. It's like, no, you know better than that. Why would you ask me that? You know better. God's first. And that's the way we win the world. That's the way we stay on top. Yep. When it starts becoming a question whether God's first, like you said, you've already lost the battle. Satan's already got inroads. You're going to have a hard fight getting him back out. We think freedom from sin and its control means, well, I'm saved, I'm washed clean, now I can do what I want. And I'm okay now because I've been washed clean. No, I can't go back and dabble around in things that's going to pull me away from what I just got free to. Because when I left that, I had to go to something. And I can't go stepping away what I just went to. I'll lose it. I got some quotes here. I want you to listen to these. Most of these you will not know the people who said them. So most of them I'm not going to name the guy who did the quote. But there's two of them here. I want you to think about it because I was reading through and I was studying on this stuff, and the quote came, I read it, and I was like, these guys had a hold of something. Spiritual, godly people or not, they had a hold of something. The time has come to accept in our hearts and in our minds that with freedom comes responsibility. Freedom is not a free thing all by itself. Freedom includes responsibility. Another quote, freedom has made a huge requirement of every human being. With freedom comes responsibility. For the person who is unwilling to grow up, the person who does not want to carry their own weight, this is a frightening prospect. See, responsibility is the state or fact having a duty to deal with something or to have control over something. An obligation that you need to do it because it's part of this. You're part of something, and you have a responsibility, a spiritual, moral, legal, or mental accountability to take care of this, to deal with it, to do this in a right way, a certain way. With freedom comes that responsibility. Freedom isn't free. Come on, you've heard this before. All gave some gave all. Freedom's not free. There's people, very unsaved people, who fought and died so that you could have the freedom this country has now. There were some very, very godly and very ungodly people who all fought for the same thing. We want our country in the future to be able to have freedom, to be able to make decisions of their own, to be able to make a choice. And we have the same thing in our spiritual life. Christ went and paid a price. He went and fought a battle, and he paid a debt. You can be free. But if you're going to be free, there's a responsibility comes with it. What does freedom mean? Freedom means the opportunity to be what we never thought we could be. What do we think of freedom? It's not the right to do as we please, but the opportunity to do what is right. It's difficult to free fools from chains that they love. Come on. It's hard to get people to give up bondage that they just love it. None are so hopelessly enslaved. I can't even talk. None are so hopelessly enslaved as those who believe they're free. Come on, what is one of the things God said? If you won't serve me, if you won't keep me and you won't do my will and you won't love me, I'll give you over to a reprobate mind. I'll let you think you're right, and then you can't be saved. Hard to get saved when you think you're already right. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You can lose it so easy, and it can be gone forever. We didn't pass it to our children in our bloodstream. It is fought for, protected, and must be handed on to them to do the same. But when we understand that freedom and independence aren't just some sign on a wall, a nice fancy flag rippling underneath, freedom, we're free, we're independent, we're such and such. There was something behind that. There was a lot of decisions made behind that. There was a lot of lives changed behind that. There was a lot of lives lost behind that. So that you had the right to choose laws that you could obey, that you felt were free. To choose to live in a country where you could have what you felt was an honest, equal chance with everyone else. It didn't guarantee you life, liberty, and happiness. It guaranteed you the right to pursue them. Right? When you come to God, what did he promise you? If you'll be my child, if you'll serve me, I'll be your God. If you'll do my commandments, I'll take care of all your needs. He never once promised, I'll give you everything you want. Because he knows that's not good for you. That's not healthy. That's not healthy with your kids. You give them all they want, you're going to have spoiled, rotten kids that somebody else is going to need to beat. That's just facts of life. You can't give them everything they want. God can't give us everything we want. He finds what's good for us, what'll help us, what'll be good for us down the road. And when he made his promise to us, we had to choose now, do I want to stay in this mess I'm in that's destroying me, destroying my life, destroying my family, or do I want to go God's way? And I'll be free from that. I will have independence. I will no longer have to do that. I can choose I want to serve God, and I will do it because I want to, not because I'm made to. But with freedom comes responsibility. So, let's just